Ooh. Dennis, I am back from vacation in hot southern Spain.
Yeah.
Feeling good.
It's good. It's good to laugh with you. It is good. It is good you're back. I want to hear all about your trip. Did you go to Sevilla?
Sevilla. Yes, I did. It was delightful. It's like in August, it's just unbearable to be in Sevilla in August because it's just so hot. It's in the hundreds every day, and you just can't be there. But the end of June, it was actually quite lovely. First, we had a little trouble with our Airbnb apartment that the air conditioner wasn't really working very well.
Oh boy.
It would only air condition like one of the rooms, like the vent closest to where the actual air conditioner unit was on the roof would get all the air. And it took 2 days, but the host got a repair guy out there to clean some filters, and then it worked a lot better. We had some trouble with the Wi-Fi, but in the end that got serviced as well. And one time we had a big fucking roach when he came home in the evening, but I sent a photo to the host lady, and she said, okay, give me some hours tomorrow when I can send over an exterminator guy to spray shit all over the house where you're not going to be there for a couple hours.
You didn't let him do it, did you?
I said, well, actually, we're going to be out of the house for 12 hours tomorrow. She said, okay. And she said, we left the windows open so it doesn't smell too bad, and you might find a dead roach somewhere, but we did not.
I had an Airbnb once in New Orleans that, speaking of roach problem, that when I opened up the cupboard where all the pots and pans were, there were not only a dozen of them scurrying around, but there were piles of dead bodies. And as it turns out, as in many Airbnbs, particularly New Orleans, people don't use the kitchen.
Right.
You're in New Orleans, you're going to go out and eat. That's what you're there for.
Right.
Although we use it because we cook a lot of our own stuff. We eat one meal out, not three.
Right.
And so nobody had used it for at least a couple of cycles, and the cleaning lady, for whatever reason, didn't look. So I ended up cleaning it myself and spraying it myself because I could do it immediately.
Right.
And I knew that he'd give me a break on the cost. It took me a couple hours, and he gave me a free day.
Nice. Normally, like going through Airbnb, there's a lot of having Airbnb as the intermediary has some pros and some cons. Like for the renter, they have some level of insurance that if you cancel the day before, like they're going to get some money from Airbnb. Yeah. And as a renter, you get some confidence that if something goes wrong, you can complain to Airbnb and get things fixed.
Right.
So that's interesting that they even had the opportunity to comp you a day, but cool.
Yeah. So do you have anybody in your apartment building that would want to trade houses with me for 2 weeks and be in Michigan in a good season?
When I was in Sevilla, I met up with this American woman who, like, we found each other like 15 years ago on the internet. I was blogging about life as an American in Spain, and she was doing the same thing. And we started reading each other's blogs and got to know each other. And then when the blogs disappeared because Facebook took over, we've been following each other there. And but we'd never met. But we were able to meet up and have a couple beers. And she mentioned how much they love this home swapping thing because they live on the outskirts of Sevilla, which is a highly desirable place from other places, and like they've swapped with people in France and one time in New Hampshire, I think, just different. And the fact that there's a mutual thing where you just have to have this mutual respect that you won't destroy their property and they won't destroy yours.
Or if they do, then you
pretty interesting. Yeah.
If they do, then you do. If they just, then you get to take a sledgehammer to it.
But it comes with, like, you often are also getting their car, because if they're coming to live wherever you are, they're not. If they're flying from far away, they're not going to take the car, and you get their car.
Well,
and it makes it's a pretty interesting concept.
This is a very attractive city. It's one of the. It's usually called the best mid-sized city in the state, if not the region. But there's an awful lot to do. It's a college town. But more importantly for people traveling from overseas is that you're an hour to Lake Michigan and all the lakeside towns, Sagatuck, Grand Rapids, the dunes, the Bear Dunes, which is world known. Mackinac Island is about 3 hours away, which is international.
I've been there. I have.
It's I don't know what it's like lately. We haven't been, but it's and you're an hour and a half. Ann Arbor. Yeah, and it's gorgeous, and our property is roomy, you know.
Hey, you and I could swap houses, and then we could record an episode where I'm at your desk.
Right, and I think the thing is, too, is that it while it would be ideal for it to be the same time, it doesn't have to be.
True. anytime that you're going to
go
be
somewhere
away,
else.
you can put up your. And apparently, this website that I don't know. I was sent a link. Like you can rack up these like points if you lend your house and aren't using someone else's house. You get these points that you can then spend later in the system somehow. I don't know. It could be. It's definitely a thing that we were curious about because traveling as a family of 4, you want to have a place that isn't just a hotel room.
Because it's conducive. Well, and our neighbors who is shared driveway with us, although let's say separated by quite the fence, they travel so much. They would be down for this, so we could advertise 2 houses next to each other, independent contracts or agreements, of course. But then if somebody's traveling with friends, they're like, oh, whoa. Our family's in this one, your family's in that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, oh, God, there's all sorts of possibilities. I think that's the only way I'm ever going to be able to spend any extended time in Europe, and I'd like to do it sooner than later.
Yeah, our apartment in Sevilla was like a block from the cathedral. Like, we were in the dead center, which was pretty sweet. We could walk everywhere. We did walk everywhere.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, it was just lovely. We did.
Yeah. Hey, the thing about proximity to walking is huge. And particularly research shows that if walking actually takes you where you need to go as opposed to just walking for exercise. So if it's convenient to walk to a store, convenient to walk to a bar, a restaurant, or whatever, here when you walk 1 mile, you're at a lake, you're at a park, a kids park, beautiful kids park. You're at a little mall that's got 3 restaurants, 2 bookstores, 2 grocery stores, and that's the thing, is to be able to walk there makes it more attractive. So where did you walk to? You went out to eat every night?
Yes. This is... So we went down there and we stopped first at my in-laws' house in southern Spain. So it's from my house to Sevilla is like 9 hours. But from my house, the drive that I just made today, from my house to their house is like 6.5. But it's on the way just to Sevilla. So we did one drive 6.5 and then spent a night and then did the 2.5 rest to get to.
Oh, that's sweet. So today was 2.5?
No, today was the 6.5.
Oh, all right.
But when we got there and we got settled in the apartment, it occurred to, I guess, my wife that maybe her folks and sister could come down the 2.5 hours to visit us there. And because it's probably my mother-in-law's, last time to see that beautiful cathedral, and she has mobility problems, but she was able to walk up the 40 floors of a ramp to get up to the top of the bell tower.
Lord.
And so it's not, probably not 40, maybe 20. And so they came down, and at first it was just going to be for the day, but then allegedly they may have also slept in the Airbnb apartment, like on the floor on some cushions.
Who's accused them of that?
No one yet.
You said it was alleged, so...
It's unallegedly.
Allegedly. They would have us believe.
And then the following day, we did some more tourism and got exhausted, and they actually spent another night there. But that was nice because we had the bigger family unit to do some of the more important tourism with. We got to tour these royal gardens that were just gorgeous, and all this stuff is, as you may imagine, super old and historied and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
and
sounds nice.
And then they left, and we did we had booked a tour that picked us up in a van from downtown Sevilla and took us a little ways out of town to visit some Roman ruins in the Roman city of Italica. Which
is it in between 2 places?
No.
Like in italics?
No. It's one of the oldest Roman settlements in Iberia, and it's the birthplace of 2 Roman emperors. So it was a really important place.
Yeah.
And
Why was it there? Coastal?
It's just inside the coast. There was a river that was there, but I'm not 100% sure why it was chosen for that particular place.
The river would make sense.
Yeah.
What do you mean it was there?
It's not there anymore.
There either is a river. Oh.
There was a river. Yeah.
That's interesting.
And it's nearby the existing river that's still there that was navigable into, because Sevilla is not really a port town. It's a little bit like how London, boats can get from the sea all the way up the Thames and to drop off goods and stuff, but London doesn't have
It's not a port town.
But it was really awesome, these ruins that they found, and learning, our guide did a great job of explaining how archaeology is very much like a forensics detective story, because you find these things and you have to put together these pieces of this puzzle to figure out what this particular room was, for example, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they had these really gorgeous tile floors that still had like depictions of the gods and things. That was really awesome.
How old are the tiles? How old are the ruins? How many years ago?
It was founded in 200 BC.
Oh my God.
So, 2000. And
2200.
Yeah.
Wow.
2200. And it's old.
Good tiles.
And what's wild is that they're still excavating there, but one of the most beautiful tile floors that's depicted the gods that both represent the planets and the days of the week. Like, it was very celestial, but it was also like the 7 days of the week.
Celestial, but also very practical and useful.
They found this. They discovered this particular room with this floor in 1986. And what they do when they first find something is they cover it with sand until they can get the funding to properly clean it up and discover it. And it took 17 years for them to get the funding to actually investigate this floor that they'd found, which is just so wrong. We see much more about these things.
You would think, at least as curious as they turn out to be, but it wasn't that it took 17 years to get them to be curious. It took 17 years for the curious people to be in control of the money.
Right, yeah, sure.
The thing is, the government has so much of our money, and the choices that it makes, the investigations, I'd much rather investigate that than what happens to 1,000 paper clips,
right,
which has been funded.
And another cool thing that they had here at this Italica site was the best preserved Roman amphitheater. So the word amphitheater in Roman times referred to a place like the Colosseum where the gladiators fought each other and also different animals. And our guide said that unlike as Hollywood has had us believe, the gladiators almost never fought to the death because they were slaves that were owned by rich people that were placing bets. So you don't want your slave fighters to kill each other, although that happens sometimes.
Tell Russell Crowe that.
Exactly. But anyway, the reason this place was sealed was this place was so well preserved was that to save some effort, they built it in this lower ground where there was a river, a creek bed going through, so they didn't have to build quite so much up. It was already in indention.
Or cavern.
And they used to have all these battles here, and so this town at its biggest was about 8,000 people, and this stadium had seating for 25,000. So people were coming from way far away to see events take place at this.
With tents and a festival all around them.
Probably, yeah. And
now this is 2,200 years ago, so they were in carts with wooden wheels, maybe stone. Part of the wheels were stone.
Your stone roads, yeah.
No, the roads, what would the roads be? The roads would be just hardpack.
Well,
although the Romans
are famous for having some really good stone roads throughout Europe. But yeah, at first, early on in the empire, it would have been just hardpack. But
for travel to the country as opposed to within a city.
Right. So anyway, because this was in this creek bed, when it stopped being used 1,800 years ago, the creek slowly filled the whole thing with silt and covered the entire amphitheater. It was covered in sand for 1,500 years. Just totally preserved. All the weather and shit was happening above ground, and this was just buried in sand. And so they found this place somehow and had to get all the sand out. But it's really freaking cool. And
to your point, how original did it look? How sharp?
So the seating part was pretty broken down. You could tell that there was stadium seating. The part that's best preserved was the lower part where the richer people would sit, and then there was a midsection, and then actually the higher part where the riffraff sat has all been weathered away. Like that part was not covered.
It wasn't covered?
Yeah. So the very top floors were not covered, and the weather took it.
So it had the weather to them.
But this is apparently I've never been to Rome, but apparently in the famous Colosseum in Rome, you can't really visualize the sand floor of where the actual gladiators would have been because there was this layer underneath it where they would keep just lions and shit that they would, but then that they would like by surprise raise up by elevators into the arena to surprise the gladiators.
Which the gladiator did have that accurate then.
But this particular location, only part of the ring is cut out and had an underground part. So it's a lot easier to visualize the flat area. I'll send you a picture of this. Right here. Let's send it to you now.
Oh,
How can I send this to you? We have a chat here because this is cool to experience, visualize. See if you can click on that link.
oh yeah. There's a picture. Wow.
So you can see how.
Ooh-wee.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Oh man. Wow.
So that whole thing was covered up in sand,
Wow.
and now it's excavated, and we walked around in that square, in that ring,
Really?
and there's
Wow.
an entrance on one side and an exit on the other. Where if you win the battle, you come out the winner's entrance, the winner's exit, and if you lose, you go out or carried out the other side.
Man,
But yeah, it was pretty freaking cool.
that is cool.
We enjoyed that a lot.
Santa Ponce.
Yes, that's the nearby city.
Santa Ponce, Sevilla, the side of Spain, an Italic settlement between two large arches.
Indeed. So that was very cool.
Oh, and I see a map. Santa Ponce, that's the city. I wonder if they're going to show. Oh, look at that statue. Nude. Oh, wow, look at those tiles and shit.
Yeah, those are the ones.
Oh,
The mosaic floor of the House of the Planetarium was the really cool one.
what a time you had.
Yeah. All right.
Cool.
Close the
Close the chat.
audio video. But yeah, that was great. And then let's see. Also in Sevilla, they have a theme park and a water park that the kids really wanted to go to, and we cleverly scheduled that for the end of our week, so that
When they'd be so exhausted, they would.
and so that if we did it the first day, they would be like, "Hey, why can't we go back the other days?" But it was okay. We aren't really a family that likes these like roller coastery rides. Meh. It was okay. And then there was a water park that was fun to play and splash around in. But in general, we had the option to go back a second day. Like we had a discount with our tickets from the first day, but we chose not to.
And so, tell me about your meals in the restaurants. But before you do, I want to give a shout out to my friend Phil, who brought me this.
Kentucky Irish Red. Huh. I see.
Very nice, very nice. The original Kentucky ale, Kentucky classic Irish Red style ale. It's delicious.
Very nice.
Very happy with that. So tell me about your restaurants and your meals. And was the food, was there a particular dish that you would eat in southern Spain and Sevilla that you wouldn't necessarily have in Madrid or Barcelona?
Excellent question, and yes, there is. Okay, so there's this dish called cazón adobado. Adobado means marinated, more or less. And
Cazón.
cazón is a type of shark.
Oh,
And it's one of these dishes that you won't find on the menu in the north of Spain, but at least down there, it seemed like every restaurant had it on the menu. And we tried several. Let's see, from the Wikipedia, the meat of the school shark is consumed in Andalusian cuisine, where it's usually known as cazón. Among the recipes are the traditional cazón in adobo, which is what we had, but in Mexican cuisine, cazón refers to other species. Anyway, it's similar to cod or haddock. It says here, and it was just this marinated in paprika and cut into little pieces and then fried, and it was pretty good.
fried?
We had it in several different places, and the first place was it tasted more like fried flour than it did like fish.
More about the crispy than the fish.
But we found a place that we liked, that we actually went to again, where it was all about the fish and just a little bit about the.
I would think that the difference would be that in the place that you like better, the chunks of fish were perhaps bigger.
Yep, slightly bigger. Yep, exactly.
It should be the size of your thumb, I would think, for them to be more about the fish than the fry.
Very good. Yes, that's about right. About thumb sized. And so that was fantastic. And then for our last, we discovered early on that we needed to have reservations at places if we wanted to eat in a particular place, because there were just a lot of people. It's a big city.
Yeah. How big is the city? 40,000? Bigger?
Population of almost 700,000.
Holy shit.
Yeah. It's an
That's
important
major.
city. Yeah. Like I said, I think it's like the third most important city in
Okay.
Spain.
I was picturing a smaller.
No, so it's a big city, and they were actually the first or second night we were there. They were actually playing a Euro Cup match, like the European soccer tournament is currently going on, and
It must have been crazy with people.
Yeah, and it was the Belgians against the Portuguese the night that we
And
were
how
there.
big of a stadium is that?
I don't know. Pretty big. I wasn't there. Hold on 1 second. Hello. I can't really talk now. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
But so the city was pulsing with soccer fans, a bunch dressed in Portuguese flags, singing in Portuguese, and a bunch of Belgians. It was exciting. I've never been in a major city when one of those international events is taking place. It was
So who won?
That was won by Belgium, which since then they have lost, and the final is this Sunday between England and Italy.
But not Spain.
No, Spain.
No, España.
Spain lost to Italy and with penalty kicks at the end. So many of these matches in this tournament have been after playing for 2 hours. It's still a tie, and because it's a tournament, you can't have a tie. So many of them have been won by penalties, which I don't really like. It's like soccer is one of these sports where the rules are designed and the system and the leagues are designed so that ties are just acceptable in a way that Americans hate, because like how could you finish a match and it'd be a tie?
I'm all over that.
But because the rules are designed in this way that ties are very likely, when you have a tournament, then you have to break the tie somehow. And penalty kicks, I don't know, it's just so fucking arbitrary. It's so much luck of guessing the right way for the keeper to jump, or I don't know. It's like if you determine the winner of a basketball tournament by shooting free throws. Come on.
And that's actually what happens. So it's funny you should say that. But that's the team that has the higher percentage of makes at the free throw line generally is the winner of the tournament. So it's an interesting thing that you mentioned there. And
well, yeah, but it's not a
post game.
Post game, everything's tied. Let's just shoot free throws until someone misses.
True, but what it is, it's the free throws at the end of the game.
Right.
So it's even more similar, but certainly not post game bullshit. But the difference is that a basketball game, if it ends, it can't end. I watched like golf. You know, when you were gone, there was a tournament with two young bucks, and they ended up tying the PGA tournament record for playing 8 consecutive holes in a playoff, tied 7 times. And it was so much fun to watch, but much more fun than ending it when they tied. The thing about the sensibility of it is that it's just not that much fun to tie.
Exactly.
From a fan point. What would you rather your team ended with a tie or had a chance at an overtime?
Sure, of course. I'm 100% on the American side of this, that it's just bizarre that I don't know. I guess there aren't other competitions that end in ties very much. Like you can have a draw in chess or something, but there's never a tie in racing of any type or anything like that.
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Can be. Horse racing, car racing, that can be a tie. Nowadays, it's got to be with slow-mo stuff we have now. It's even rare, but
I suppose.
when you relied on a camera, it was very tough.
Right.
And unusual, but not as a matter of course. If the percentages are compared, it's not expected, but it's not disallowed either.
So anyway, on our, I guess, last night there, we chose a really nice looking restaurant. Again, that was like a block from our house, but it was lovely. And I guess the last 2 nights we went out for a pretty good meal, and then we're able to take the kids to the apartment and leave them there playing Wi-Fi video games or something, and then my wife and I go out for a drink.
For a nightcap. So tell me, at each of those 2 restaurants, what did your family eat, and what was the tab in American dollars?
Okay, so I guess the first night was an Italian place, and I got a pasta with something with liver and truffle sauce. That was pretty fucking amazing.
Did you say liver?
Foie gras, yeah.
A cow liver.
I don't know
Or a duck
what
liver.
animal it was. Duck, maybe.
A fowl.
Yeah.
Fowl, yeah.
And
yeah.
and then my wife and the kids shared 2 pretty good sized pizzas.
How was the pizza? Thick crust or thin crust?
Thin crust. This was pretty authentically Italian, from what I can guess, having never been to Italy. This felt proper Italian. And so that was lovely. And a bottle of wine. And that place probably came to, in US dollars, maybe $80 for the food.
What? For 4 of you?
Yeah, with wine.
Oh,
Then
that's crazy, man.
The second night we went out to a place where
Cheap.
we had really good food, and each of our plates that we ordered was like $30, and the wine was also $30. So it came out closer to, I don't know, 175 or something.
And what did you eat the second night?
There's another night that's coming to me where I had beef tartare, which is an interesting thing that you don't see everywhere, and I usually try and order it when I see it because it's so relatively rare, and I don't dare try and cook it at home.
On a musical I was in that tartare was prominent in one of the songs. Isn't that odd?
Yes, the brain, man.
Isn't that odd? I've not thought of that in 40 years.
What I had was an amazing
tartare
piece of meat, probably filet mignon, over a lovely bed of curried vegetables. That was quite nice. And the kids also had similar piece of meat with some sauce or veggies around. But it was very good. This was a rooftop restaurant with a view of the cathedral, and it was just
cool. Man.
Yeah.
That was your last night there too, huh?
Yeah.
The splurge.
So our plan was to then drive back up to my in-laws' house and spend the rest of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, there, and then drive back today. But while we were in, I got a message from a friend of a friend who apparently rarely logs into Facebook, but she had, and we're Facebook friends, and she had seen that we were doing touristy stuff in Sevilla, and she said, "Hey, you guys are in Sevilla, why don't you come and spend a night at our little villa?" Let me see if I can get the proper...
Were they there?
Yeah.
With them?
Yes. So the word what they have is a cortijo, which Wikipedia describes as a type of traditional rural dwelling. Like it says, it translates to farmhouse in English, but not really, because so what these people had was an olive farm, but it's an olive farm. They had 40,000 olive trees.
Oh my God!
8 acres and acres in the middle of fucking nowhere.
And they were in the olive agriculture business.
So this woman that invited us is a childhood friend of a woman that we met when we were living in England, who was also a veterinarian working at the same company my wife was. And they came up to visit our friend in England one time, and we went with them to go do some tourism and stuff, and we sort of liked each other. And since then, we've been in touch, but just randomly. We're not friends, really, but we're friends of friends. And one time they came up north and said, "Hey, we're going to be nearby. Why don't we get together?" And we did, and we spent a day together. And another time when they live in Madrid, and when we were taking my son to get his U.S. passport at the U.S. Embassy, and we spent a weekend in Madrid, we got together with them, and they showed us some cool restaurants and stuff. But we don't really know these people. They said, "Why don't you come?"
They sure sound like friends.
To our farmhouse. And so the place is owned by her father. Like, she has plenty of family money. It's one of 6 places like that around southern Spain. And he makes olive oil. He has an olive oil business. And
fucking out.
So they called us. They said, "Hey, why don't you come up here?" And it was it was on our way. It was on our way back up north, and it was only like 30 minutes outside of Sevilla. And they sent me the location, and they said, "This is the gate where you have to come, and we'll open it for you." And I looked on Google Maps, and it was just this little road and a gate in the middle of fucking nowhere. And on Google Maps, I followed, once you go through the gate, I was dragging to see where the road goes, and I had to drag this road, just goes on and on through these olive trees for about half a mile. And then you get to this huge sort of walled white compound with several houses and a huge swimming pool. And I wrote back, I said, "So the swimming pool is functional?" And she said, "You've been looking on Google Maps, haven't you?" "Yes, it is." Anyway, we go to this place. It's,
my God.
There's a family that lives there all the time that are the employees that maintain the farm. And then normally no one else lives there except for when they come to do the harvest or whatever. But this woman with COVID and stuff, last year they decided to leave Madrid and come live in this place. And they prefer, there's the house where the people that are maintaining it live, and then there's the main primary house, and then there's a smaller guest house. Anyway, they prefer to live in the guest house, so they gave us this huge 4-bedroom house stacked to... There must have been 50,000 books in there because she loves to read, and apparently that's what she does all day. And this beautiful pool. It was just gorgeous. in this amazing like party patio area.
And what was your bedroom like? What were the bedrooms like?
Bedroom was fine, large, but nothing too crazy, perfectly functional. And so we spent all day out at the pool drinking beer and just had a lovely, relaxing time after getting exhausted with the tourism in
Two nights?
Sevilla. So we said, okay, we'll spend one night here and then we'll get up in the morning and we'll keep going. And when it was getting around dinner time, our host said, okay, so what do you guys want to do tomorrow? And they had these plans of different places we could go and things we could see. And it was always assumed that we were going to stay more than one night. And the pool was so fucking nice.
So too.
And we ended up staying 3 nights. Just partying with these guys. They brought out these exotic wines, and there was just so much beer and so much good food. And it was just like...
And what was the food?
One time they made a paella, but mostly it was just meat on the grill was what we had for dinner. And for
What
lunch,
kind of meat?
pig mostly. Some of them, actually, some of the pig was actually from their...
Like pork chops or loin or what?
They kept calling it pig head, like the face meat, I think.
Jowls.
Yeah, jowls.
And the neck.
Hold on.
How many pictures did you take at this place?
Quite a bit. Shoulder, pig shoulder.
Pig shoulder, right.
Yeah.
That's not exactly pig's head.
No, but that was a different piece. But it was...
Pig snout. Sow's ear.
I have had pig snout before, but this was not it. And anyway, it was just... they are interesting people, and it's just to get a vision of what that life is like of just hanging out by the pool. And I think they make their money by like flipping houses. They buy a place and pay people to fix it up and then sell it for more. But
cool.
Just that sort of lifestyle.
Hey, so tell these people they can come to Michigan for 2 weeks.
Exactly.
Huh?
That'd be it was a shame that we didn't have more people there to party with. Like it was because that place could hold parties of 50 people.
Come on, man. Let's make some plans. You gotta get these folks to want my place, and I'll throw in a car, and I'll also throw in round trip train tickets to Chicago, which is 2 hours from here, and then a quick cab to anywhere you want to go in Chicago. Could do it during the Chicago Blues Festival, when after 2.5 hours of drinking on the train, you get to the Blues Festival. I'll also throw in a room across from Grant Park where the festival's held at the Marriott. I'll throw that in. Nice. That's the thing to do, is to package the shit. Right. It isn't you just get the house. You get this. So one of the nights that you have the option of is going to Sagatuck for the live community theater, which has a huge cultural reputation, and just an hour from here. Or book a concert at Myers Gardens and see a Trombone Shorty from New Orleans play. Couple of tickets. Throw the shit together, man.
Yeah.
And we'll meet up in where is this place? What's the nearest town? Sevilla?
It's pretty close to Sevilla. There are a couple towns closer, but more, yeah, that would be the airport you'd fly to.
How far out? Hour?
No, it's like 30 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Close. Yeah,
perfect.
Lovely. And
so did you eat some of their olive oil on bread with seasoning, or what did you do?
We did. That was our breakfast
appetizer?
in the morning. No, common Spanish breakfast is toast with some olive oil drizzle on it.
Some cheeses?
No.
Not for breakfast?
Just good bread with good olive oil and a little bit of salt is all you need. So fucking good.
Coffee?
Yeah. So anyway, it was just this... We just stumbled into spending 3 nights at this luxury resort for free.
And your kids must have been like, who are we that we get... Daddy, are you a rock star?
Yeah. So
Daddy, did you cut a new album? But this was a connection through your spouse.
Through some friends that we knew in England. We were friends enough with them that we attended their wedding.
Yes, right.
But
therefore you were highly recommended.
Yeah, and these are interesting conversation folks. They're a little off in the deep end when it comes to understanding science and conspiracy theories, but they're good to talk to, and generally fun to be around, and always offer another beer or whatever. So
yeah, right. Well, sound like my kind of people. Hey, did you get my fishing pictures?
I did.
So I've got to tell you, this week we close out our hour here, is that as you were talking about your delicacies, I didn't take a picture of it, but the fish that I showed you, which was a 19 yellow pike, or walleye as they're now called, got netted almost 25 pounds of filet, which my brother Joe and I split up. And in the split I got the other day, we had a 4th of July party here in the backyard, and my son-in-law, who loves walleye, and my son, who, as it turns out, loves walleye. So we have little fillets, and we have big fillets, and the big fillet is about 7 ounces. So it's a big hunk of fish. Mm-hmm. And I tried a new recipe where I dipped it in egg, and then I pressed it into a combination of pancake mix flour, a little bit, and a heaping amount of grated Parmesan cheese, and then crushed ground up potato chips. And so created a flaky crust, and pan fried it in super hot olive oil.
Yep.
Which of course is the lowest heat. It cooks better.
Yeah.
The lower, yes. And came out brown and crispy and crunchy. Nice. On the outside, and through the inside just beautifully white, flaky. And the idea of being served food that's good, like as good as what I'm describing, and as good as what you described, it's one of life's great pleasures, isn't it? Because during that time, you're just into the moment. You're using senses other than your brain, which is no longer reeling at a million miles an hour or whatever the fuck you're thinking, but instead it's just all focused on these other senses.
It's very primal. You turn back into this creature that is consuming the...
Right. So what if the scene is the river, and you're on the banks, and the water's running, and the wind is rustling through the trees overhead, and you have a open fire, and you're taking a fish you just caught and cooking it in any way you want on an open fire, and looking at and listening and smelling and
doesn't
tasting.
get any more natural than that. That's the way our ancestors were eating 50,000 years ago. So I have some exciting news tomorrow. Two things are happening.
Number one,
I'm getting my second vaccination shot.
Oh,
so very happy.
You will be inoculated.
Exactly.
Who is your inoculator?
Pfizer.
Me too. They're recommending now when you get your second in 6 months, when you get re-upped, that you go to a different vaccine.
Yeah, I've heard that too. And
number two,
my new desk and chair are getting delivered.
Oh.
So this will probably be our last episode recorded where I am right now in this room. And I will go over to my happy hour studio.
That's in 2 days. I will celebrate by using the next couple of days to pick up my new chair.
Good.
Which I've been contemplating for some time. So the next time we record, we'll both be more comfortable.
In new chairs.
How's your arm, by the way? I've been
Thank you.
It's fine.
Yes, the 2 weeks away from the computer has helped enormously. It feels great. However, I'm especially happy to be getting the new desk and to find some different postures to work at going forward.
And your dad, not so much on the arm.
Yeah, he
wow
needs more work. He's a work in progress.
He's a fucking bionic man. He's already getting replacement parts for shit that he's replaced. I mean, what's he got? 2 new shoulders.
How many shoulders does one man need?
And ankle. So while he's recovering from the ankle replacement, he decides that they all decide, his team decides he needs a second shoulder or a third. It seems to me it's the third.
I think it's the third shoulder, yeah.
Wow. So how many times, what the fuck? Is it that
I don't know.
Rough, that experimental, that really takes 3 times to do it? Is he getting his money back?
You got to upgrade the operating system. You got to get the new firmware. Get the latest version. Last year's shoulder is so out of date now that you want the new version.
Thinking of your old pond, thinking of golf a little bit, I had to chuckle because Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback for the Packers, or so it seems, and Brian DeChambeau, he of Body Hulk,
right,
and amazing yardage, played against Tom Brady and Phil Mickelson. And I want you to take a look when you get a moment at the outfit that Tom Brady wore, where Aaron Rodgers, his pair of comfortable golf shoes, pair of shorts, a golf shirt hanging out, long hair, just a baseball cap. And there's Tom Brady dressed in brilliant white shoes and $1,000 trim, slim golf pants. And get this, a white a golf shirt that he buttons the top button on the
I've seen this
collar.
now.
And he reminded me of all these old convict movies where there was always one convict who buttoned up his top collar. It was Duchesne in Shawshank Redemption who buttoned his top collar. And what was the other one I saw? Same kind of deal, nonetheless. Right. And here's the thing: is that it's all in the news. The trash talk. It is the most mild trash talk in the world. Golfers are so polite, and it's like Tom Brady, who's got on every ball he used has Roman numerals. Roman numeral, comma, 6 Roman numerals in total, representing, of course, each Super Bowl that he won. And they're out there, and one guy says, one of the quarterbacks says, "Yeah, you guys you could hit as a quarterback, and you'd know it. Yeah, I could never handle whatever," and that's it. And they call it trash talk. And I'm thinking of a Bill Hader spinoff, right? Where he's playing Tom Brady all buttoned up. And he's saying shit to the other golfers like, "Your mother sucks the hindquarters of a mule," or just really gets into all sorts of severe back talk. And poor, I don't know, Phil Milk, or I don't know it would be a quarterback. Bill Hader would play a quarterback. So he could play a button-down Tom Brady. He might be the recipient of this kind of shit. I don't know who'd pay the wild man, the wild quarterback, like one of these beasts. Or put Dominican Sue. A lineman in there playing golf and talking trash and then beating the shit out of the other golf before they tee off. There's a lot of fun to be had with the trash talk of professional golfers. Oh, Lord.
Yeah. So, I'm looking forward to...
It's good to be back. Good to be back in the saddle.
Getting back in the saddle,
We did miss a week. Your homework from before remains. Your homework in the future, among other things, is to watch the movie Little Things. Denzel Washington, Jared Leto, which I sent you a link.
That's a new one, isn't it, from this year?
Yes, it's a movie, not a series. And we're searching for a new series. I'm on it tonight. In fact, I'm going to do a little searching, and I'll let you know.
Okay, very good.
I'll find something.
Yeah,
you know what I watched last night? This is other homework. In case you can maybe one movie, but if you could do two. The other one is the Rockwell flick, where he's doing his last stint on the moon, his last bit of a 3-year stint.
I love that movie. It's called Moon.
Have you seen it?
I've seen it.
Moon.
It's so
You've
good.
seen it?
Yes. I love it.
Let's put it on the list because it's very interesting. And just one quick question: do you know who plays? What's the robot's name? What is the robot's name? Edgar?
I forget, but yes, it's a voiced by Kevin Spacey.
Something like that.
I remember.
I didn't know that until I saw the credits. It was familiar.
Yeah.
It was familiar. Let's talk about that.
As I think I've mentioned often, my favorite kind of creepy movies are the ones where you as a viewer are with the protagonist as they slowly lose their minds, and Moon is a great example of that. And the twists when you really understand what has been going on with the mission is wild. I would like to see that again before next time, because
it was unnerving.
If you're gonna have a movie with just one character on the screen at any given moment, make it Sam Rockwell.
It is one of his best among many. It was fun to have my friend Phil over from New Orleans. He's actually invited me to fly down to New Orleans to play a party with his neighbor from up the street who's moving to. Where's he moving to? I think he's moving to Tennessee, but he's a fantastic blues guitar player, plays nothing but blues. And Phil talked to him, and the guy says, "Oh man, get your buddy down here. We need to gig this out."
Cool.
And so Phil offered me a round trip plane ticket.
Nice.
Which I don't think I'll do that. I don't know. I'd like to take him up on it, but I haven't played in a whole year.
Right,
publicly.
exactly.
But he came to the house, and I played a little bit, so it was fun.
That reminds me, one thing that we stumbled upon just randomly in Sevilla. In Sevilla, they take their Catholicism very seriously, and you can't swing a dead cat without hitting 7 little chapels. And on every single street, there's a painting of the crying Virgin Mary, because they are all about the passion of the Christ and the death of Jesus. It's all about death. It's morbid is the perfect word. And
morose. But the crying mother is morose. The dying Jesus can be morbid.
But so their biggest festival of the year is for Easter. And in Spain, on Easter, they do this, in many cities, they do this funeral procession through the streets where they carry Virgin Mary statues on the shoulders of some dudes, and
I've seen it in films.
The coffin of Jesus or whatever, and it's just really fucking scary. They've got these guys with big KKK looking hats on and costumes and stuff, and I've seen one in person, and it's fucking creepy. But in Sevilla, they do it better than anyone, and Easter is so important to them. And we stumbled upon in a park a band practicing for next Easter. That's how seriously they take it. And much like you, they're a year at least out of practice because they didn't really do any processions last year or the year before, this year or the year before. But it's this really somber drum beat and on the pace that people are walking very slowly.
Processional.
It's mostly bugles just singing this really sad song. I recorded a video. I'll share some of that song with you. But practicing for next Easter.
The bleeding heart of the Lord, the thorns are dripping blood into his red eyes as he slowly dies. Each step he takes, he cries, "Why me, don't take me? Why me, don't take me? Why me?"
Something like that. See you, bro. Okay, that's it for episode number 117. You can find the show notes at happyhour.fm/117, where there are links to those Roman ruins in Italica and other photos of the golfers, Tom Brady and whatnot. Anyway, you can support us at patreon.com/happyhour. And we'll see you next week.